The Book of Honey, by Isida Rochas, Chapter 22, Troubleshooting, August 25, 2030, 4 p.m. Honey, I woke up after falling asleep in the study. It was dark outside. William was at the desk, and at first, I thought he was working. He had fallen asleep too. I sit up for a moment, but I can't resist the urge. I stealthily cross the room and perch myself on top of the desk. I had to hold my mouth shut when I was reminded of the story Uncle Bruce had told me about William while he was his trainee. He was sleeping with his mouth wide open. I just wanted to look at him without him looking back. His face is a long rectangular shape, and his high forehead was framed by his dark curly brown hair. I had always thought it was black, but the closer I look, I can see it was a dark brown. Full eyebrows that make so many expressions. I love the look of uncomfortable on his face. It makes me laugh. His nose has a very different shape from most noses, an English feature that was similar to Manford's. William's lips are light and thin, his chin has a cleft. I wanted to touch it so bad, to run my hand over his cheek to feel the stubble on his face. William had unbuttoned the first couple of buttons on his shirt in the heat of the day. I see chest hair sticking out. I don't know why, but that made me embarrassed. The thought to run my fingers through it popped into my mind. So, I kept my eyes on his face and my hands to myself. Wishing I could see his eyes, almost the moment I had that thought it was like I invoked him. 1 minute he was lounging back, mouth open. William takes a deep breath, then his eyes fluttered open. I think it took him a good second to realize I was sitting at the desk in front of him. A sleepy smile lights up his face. I would be lying to myself if I didn't think he was straight up adorable. This was a smile I liked most. It didn't hold any of that fake charm. William always tried to push on others to get what he wanted. This smile was boyish and completely thrown off from me being so close. I had to give it to him. He didn't straight up flinch now or when I completely fell apart today. He greets me softly in a low voice. Well, hello honey, what are you up to? I took my chance to see his blue eyes while he was still dazed. When they caught the light there was an undertone of red in his eyes. Then I said, I'm just getting a good look at you. His grin brings life to his face. When William asks me, so, tell me, have you figured anything out yet? I shake my head and speak. Not yet, I still need to know you better, William, but I have learned some things I was surprised by. He asks me. Like, what? I tell him. You're very responsible. In a voice that is dark and calm, he asks me. What else have you noticed, honey? I take my time to say to him that you love your job more than anything and you go to great lengths to do it better than anyone. William's blue eyes looking at me. I have all of his attention. I was keeping this one-sided. When he asks, what else do you see, honey? William seemed just a bit nervous as I tell him. You don't unwind in front of just anyone. Most people will never earn your true respect. In front of most people, you don't swear, express yourself or get past shallow greetings and small talk. You rarely say what you actually think, and despite you treating everyone fairly, you don't completely like or trust most people. William takes a deep breath and speaks. You are a scary creature, honey. I just shrug. I've just had a lot of practice reading people. You're harder than most people to read. William asked me. Why do you find it so difficult to read me? I roll my eyes up and to the right, which is what I do when I'm thinking. Then I answered William. You are not shallow but very deep. You have this fake part that you wear like a skin of armor. That part makes you seem shallow and petty, but it's just how you deal with the world. There is more going on than I can see right now. You are also keeping things close to you that you're not hiding, but you mostly hope they go unnoticed. William asks me very softly. What do you think it is? When he asks this question, he seemed more serious than most times. So, I say to him, I think I know, but I'm in no hurry to make you say it. You are also someone who could easily distract me, but you're not allowed to. He smiles at me and speaks. Distract you from what? I just shrug. That is mostly me saying that to myself. There are things I'd like to change around here. Would it be okay if I did? I wanted to change the subject so William doesn't freak out on me. William tells me, that's all right with me, don't mess with the study or my room. You're free to change whatever you'd like. Really? He nods and says. Yep, he seemed relieved at the change in subject. I say, all right, thank you. He then says, wait a minute, there are a few things I need to tell you. You should hold off on any big plans for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Why? In a few weeks, a man is coming to the house for a meeting with me. I ask him, who is it? His name is Noah Sheeran. He is the man that I am trying to pitch a proposal to about the request you asked of me and Beck. I asked William. He any relation to you? William sighs very deeply. Then looked at the ceiling. When he answers me. Yes, he is my father as well as Beck's former boss. He still has a lot of pull in Beck's job. Noah Sheeran is the American ambassador to England. My eyes were rolling around my head trying to think of something to say. Well damn, William, when you said you were born with political ties, I was thinking local. He nods and tells me. Yeah, that is the reason I don't use it very often. Also, we don't have the best of relations. Anyways, he will be here in about 4 weeks at about noon. I asked William. Why did you make it here? He tells me. Well, at the time I made the meeting for both me and Beck, but then he made a last-minute decision to go on a manhunt for Victoria. I thought it would give him a chance to bring the doctor to see you and I wouldn't have to talk to Noah by myself. I asked him, do you want me to be there? He nods at me. I do, and I have a request to make. Since I know you are good at cooking, I would like you to set up a brunch for the 3 of us. I gave him a look but say anyways. I'd have to do some research and ask you a few questions. I wouldn't know what to say to him, William. I admit that I was a little panicked. That's okay, I will introduce you to him. We will conduct business first. Talk if you wish, but you don't have to. When we're done, he has some personal things he wants to discuss with me. You can leave at that point? I asked William. Okay, is there any way I need to dress? Because I don't do dresses. William tells me. No, you wear whatever makes you feel comfortable. I'll tell him this is to be casual. Also, I am going to be going back to London off and on. So, as a reward for helping me, make a list of all the things you are required for changing things around here and I will buy you what you want. I sat silently, leaving him in suspense. There is an old barn on the edge of your property. Does it belong to you? He nods. Yes, it's an old junk barn. I say. That's great. I saw the stuff on the outside and was hoping to use some of it. Would that be all right? William tells me. Whatever you find is yours. I say excitedly. Yes. But what else did you have to tell me? William explained to me. This part is more about you. I told you that you're enrolled in a school called Seven Oaks next year. I nod and say. Yes, I remember. William tells me. So, the cutoff age for admissions is 16, so for you to go you have to start attending by this January. I'm a bit alarmed when I tell him. William, that is way too soon. He smiled and said. I figured you'd say that, so I did a little negotiating with the school. For you to start remote classes after December, right now it's August, you have free time till the middle of September. You're going to take an assessment test to see where you stand in each core subject. William tells me. Math, science, history, language, and so on. I don't see you having a problem with math or science with the way your mind works. But just in case, I have someone that is a personal tutor. She has agreed to come by 3 times a week to help you with lessons. But this is all up to you. If you would like to seek an alternative way, I don't mind. I'm not going to lie, talking about going to school with William was weird. It was a lot to think about. But what else was I going to do? I think you're right. If I'm going to catch up, I will start studying, but I need free time for the stuff I want to work on. He nods. I agree, that is why classes will only be 3 days a week, but they will be long days. I tell him. That's not a problem, I can do long hours. Who is this tutor? William says. Her name is Fella Giuseppe. She is a childhood friend. I thought to myself that it might be good to have another woman in the house. Okay, I agree to the brunch and the classes. Anything else I need to know? William handed me a piece of paper and says. No, I will get all the stuff you need. Set up an email with this name. He handed me an envelope with the name Natalie Honeybee Ledger on it. My heart did a little jolt when I saw my real name on it. Opening it up, it was a pack of IDs, a passport with stamps, a birth certificate, and social security number, as well as an emancipated minor document. I looked at William and say. Really? William says to me. It was his idea. You are his niece, so he figured it would be okay. Your story is that you came to England because you were injured and are recovering. You are an emancipated minor that discovered your uncle was alive after accidentally meeting him by chance. How was I injured? William says to me. That is up to your imagination. I figured you could come up with something. I give him a look, just to say, yeah, right, injured. I stand up suddenly on top of the desk, do a back handstand and lower myself to the floor. I was so pleased with myself, and the look William was giving me. Then I turned and head to the door. I will call you down for dinner. Tomorrow, you take me around the house so that I can see if there's anything useful around here. All he could say before I went was, all right. I was super pumped. I had plans. I liked having things to do. Wood and Brom made it back at about dinner time. We put the things they brought up into my room. Dinner was roast beef with root vegetables, caramelized onions, gravy, and a spicy sweet bread pudding made from the leftover bagels from breakfast. William finally got around to showing me the rest of the house. We started in the basement. Down stone steps. William flipped on a light. I was blown away. There were empty shelves at the steps, but farther back we went, there were woodworking tools, table saws, and other large tools for metal treating and all kinds of tinkering. Then we made our way to all the closets and doors on the main level. The front hall closet had light bulbs, brooms, cleaning stuff, and old coats and rain boots. There was a linen closet and a cabinet full of fancy dishes and serving trays. The second floor was mostly spare bedrooms, a couple of bathrooms, and more closets. It was where William's master bedroom and the study were. Extra blankets and pillows were in the 2 closets. On the 3rd floor, where my stuff was, only a bathroom, my room, and the room across from mine. It's as large as mine, but it was filled with old things like bizarre furniture with the most amazing colors. Toys, baby clothes, photo albums, curtains, sports balls and equipment, and old radios. Chest of some very retro clothing, bolts of forgotten fabrics that blew my mind. Some of them were even in my favorite color, honey gold. I was redoing my room with some of the things in here. William told me his great-aunt was a seamstress in the 60s and 80s, and this was all the leftover stuff that was from her shop. That was even sewing machines. I was going to see if they were still working. After that, I went to the kitchen and started making the list of food for the brunch and the materials I need to start remaking this place. This was what happened for the next few days.
William, during the first 3 weeks, I hardly saw Honey much. She was around every morning. She would be up to make food. Nothing as elaborate as the first day, but always something good. After she eats, she goes for a run. I showed her the perimeter of the property and where she should avoid it. Honey was also given a few rules, and she said she had no problem following them as long as they were relevant to her safety. I had to accept that as good as it was going to get. She is gone for about 15 to 30 minutes per run. She goes out and comes in from a different direction every day. I saw a few times she comes back with her arms full. Bulky bags, wooden boards, and metal things she must have gotten from the junk barn. Storing them in the greenhouse. Then she runs straight up the stairs to shower and change. Sometimes she will make lunch, but most of the time we fend for ourselves. She eats lightly at lunch. Once in a while, she will stop by the study to grab a book. She only stays in the study when it's just the 2 of us. But that's not very often because Brom, Wood, and I were setting things up for a home office. When I first suggested the Bacon House, Beck took care of all the electrical upgrades, including appliances, and internet services. He had to make sure he and I could communicate from here. But there were kinks in the system that needed to be worked out. One day Brom and I were dictating reports when the web went down. We lost a full day's work. Honey heard us complaining as she came back from a run. I'm yelling at Brom from the living room to see if it had come back at all. Honey comes in and asks, William, what's going on? I tell her. Sorry if we alarmed you. The web died on us in the middle of work, and we lost some things. Now I can't seem to find the problem. The equipment seems to be running fine. All the cables are in the right place. Honey tells me. Okay, give me a second and I'll take a look at it. Honey goes upstairs and comes back with a handbag. Honey didn't even ask, she just holds out her hand. I place the box in her hand. She takes it apart so fast. Carefully she looks over the wires. Closing it back up and speaks. That's not your problem. Show me where you're set up, William. I didn't even hesitate to take her to the desktop in my room and then the one downstairs where Brom and Wood were trying to get their box back up. Arguing about what might be wrong. Each time she took a few minutes to check out cords, boxes, and our towers. All the things that we already checked. She then pulled out her phone and started to use it. We're all standing around staring at her as she says. The problem isn't with this equipment, it's with your hookup or your Wi-Fi signal. Wood and Brom threw up their arms in frustration. Brom says, William, how long would it take to call someone to repair it? I say, probably at least a day. The only time Brom complains is when it's about his family. He says to himself, I'm going to be so backed up with work I'll never get home to my girls. Call the service people as soon as you can. Just before I say a thing, Honey says, you don't need to call a service person, I can fix this. All three of us look at her and I ask her, are you sure? Yes, just show me where your signal is coming from. Wood and Brom are oddly quiet, as the two of us conducted business like we'd done it 1 billion times. In truth this was just the first time the two of us were problem-solving face to face. They just follow us to watch how things unfold and they had nothing better to do. I don't rightly know where it would be, Honey. She says to me, just show me where your electrical box is and we will find it. I take Honey to the garage and show her where the box is. She looks around and then says, it's not in here, but we're going to flip this main breaker so we don't fry anything in the house. Then she starts following the lines till she comes to the utility pole where the electricity is hooked up to the house. There was a small box at the base of the pole with a line leading up to the top of the pole. Honey says, this is what we're looking for. There is a lock on the box. Then Honey grabs some tools out. It took her a few seconds to get into it. I watch Brom and Wood look at each other. Wood asks me, are we doing something illegal? I would find that ironic. I tell him, I wouldn't know what the laws are about touching a utility box. Honey ignored us while she was looking at the stuff on the inside of the box. After a good long look, Honey pulls a cable out of the box. Then a string of curse words leaves her mouth. Goddamn, motherfucking lazy bastards. We were all alarmed because this was the most Honey had said in all the time she has been here. She is mostly quiet when Brom and Wood are around. I asked her, what is it, Honey? She tells me, when they installed your router out here close to its power source, they didn't take into account your older electrical lines. Their output is much higher than a newer line. Your PO cable is unbalanced and overheated. Here, look at it for yourself. Honey handed me the cable and it was a bit melty at one end. I say, well damn, that is an absolute bag of toss. Then Honey says, you're lucky it didn't cause a fire. I asked her, so should I go and call someone? She paused and looked at the cable and spoke. No, I think I have enough cable to replace this one and it is the right decibel milliwatts. I also have something to prevent the surge from the electrical lines that will protect the cable from getting fried again. Then Honey turns to Wood and Brom. You two see this cable? Both said nothing but looked at me. Honey is pissed at their lack of attention. Hey, you don't need to be worried about him. If you want your shit to be up and running, stop acting clueless and listen to me pull this cable. You can do it pretty hard at first, but the closer you get to the house, slow down so you don't mess up the jack. Then go find some shovels and then tell me where the cable leads to. Honey sends them off and then runs back inside telling me to keep an eye on those two. I watch Brom and Wood pulling meters of cable. Brom had nothing to say and just kept working as he was told. Wood on the other hand complained the whole time Honey had left. Who the hell does that bitchy little girl think she is, telling us what to do? You just doing what she says like a fucking suck up. I didn't have anything to say to Wood. I was used to taking unquestioning directions from Honey. I've been surveilling and helping Honey direct a flow of information for almost a year now. The only difference is now she was in person and I got to tell her more than sound suggestions. I tell Wood, stop complaining and get on with it, Wood. She is saving us a day of waiting on our asses. Or are you too delicate to take her direction? Wood says, I ain't delicate in the least, but I just don't like being ordered around by. He stopped and I know what he is about to say, which makes me get a little smug with Wood. Were you going to say someone younger than you? Wood, I'm younger than you and I have no problem telling you what to do. Wood tells me in a very snarky tone. Yeah, I verily let that happen, but you've proven that you are sometimes worth listening to. I don't know anything about this girl, she is walking around here like she owns the place. I asked him, what happened to calling her princess and doing what you have to? Wood just says, that was when she was quiet. I find her tone to be grating on my ears. I say to Wood, you think I roll over sympathetically for just anyone? You've known me long enough to know that I play their game but would rather be left to my work. Wood exclaims. Then what was all that, just following along with her shit? I tell Wood. God, Wood, why is it that everywhere I take you, Wood, you have to be the biggest dick in the world? You've been here verily over a week and you want to have a pissing match about everything. The drive, the house, our assignment. You're acting like you didn't sign the same papers as us. Wood says. You mean the papers you and I signed? The both of us look at Brom. Brom says to us, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't go turning Wood's tantrum around on me and point fingers. I ignored him to say, I have my theories about you, Brom. Brom stops pulling cable and stands to his tallest height, which was just a bit shorter than me. Yeah, and what might those be, William? Brom's voice takes a sharp tone to it. One he only used on people who were close to crossing him in a bad way. One Wood knew all too well, one he had never used on me. So, I say cautiously to Brom. The only two things that matter are that you and Wood were accepted by Beck. That Honey's safety is a priority as long as you are both on this assignment. Brom gives me a slight smile. Then says to me, I wholeheartedly agree. Miss Honey is a fine young lady and an asset to this world. Deserving of all we have to give, Chief Superintendent Sheeran. I pretended I didn't hear his hidden meaning behind his words. We were all standing around glaring at one another, when from around the other side of the house came Honey, scared the shit out of all three of us. Holding a shovel, a bunch of cables, and the other end of the line we're digging. Honey says to the three of us, stop pissing me off with your masculine pride parade. We all apologize and get back to getting it done. Even stopped complaining once he saw that Honey knew what she was doing, getting down in the dirt and mud with not a word of complaint. With her help we got things up and running smoothly. She even helped us retrieve the progress we had lost earlier. Once Honey was done, she went back to doing her own things.